How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting. Welcome back to chaoschild. So, we had some spice last week. I got a little heated. I think it's well earned. Mio's really kind of gone off a deep end. I think that it's interesting, and I think what ended up happening is I fell into kind of a trope. Her character design was one that I thought was very well done. It's very nice, very pretty. I'm always a big fan of the scientist and, intelligent characters. I think they tend to come across really well. I even don't mind go get 'em, like self-deterministic attitude. Very big fan of that. So I kind of lured into like her being one of my favorite characters. But as time's gone on, she's gotten a little bit more. She came off really aggressive. It came off really unwilling to compromise at all, like even a little bit. And that was kind of odd. But then here, when like Taku, out of a genuine desire, maybe a naive desire, but a genuine desire to try and help a young girl who had been effectively abandoned and lost have a home because he knew what that felt like and wanted to provide her something, successfully provides her a nice loving place that he can see has like good benefit for her. And then to have her come in and basically threaten to kill him, like physically threatening him, and like clearly uninterested in hearing his opinion. I think some people pointed out something, and like someone was saying that like we don't know her motivations yet, and that's the thing. Is like I think I even mentioned last week, that I understand she probably has a great reason why she hates gigalomaniacs. Heck, if she knew what happened during the like earthquake 6 years ago, like what we know, I could see a normal person who sees all that happen and maybe like sees it affect their friends and family, who might look at a gigalomaniac and want them all to be exterminated because they're dangerous. And she's not entirely wrong there. They are dangerous. Now, unilateral just killing people because they're dangerous is not really a way to go about things, but I can see why someone would have that opinion. And I get it. But her inability to communicate, no, not in her inability though, it's her decision not to communicate properly. Her decision to hold stuff close to her chest and never justify her actions, no matter how extreme they seem. That's really what's killing me here. I'm sure she has a great reason for what she's doing. She's a pretty smart person. Genuinely. Someone said it really well, eloquently. They said that she's a good example of having an 18 intelligence and a 6 wisdom, which are D&D stats, but the idea being that she's incredibly smart, but does not have a good understanding of like the relation and way things like interact with each other outside of the logic, and it can make her very destructive. It makes her dangerous though. Like the gigalomaniacs are dangerous, but so is she. So I don't know. Not to see. Anyway, things are probably going to cool down from there. Let's see where we go. And then we're going to see if we subject ourselves to that testing that I don't trust for a second. And actually, sadly, it makes me worry that our adoptive father might have been associated with Nozomi, because he has a friend who might be very related to the whole company, and he's recommending him. It's like, I think it's a terrible idea. I think they shouldn't do that at all. It's like really risky, and I wouldn't. They don't know how risky it is because they don't have our insight. So I get why they probably will, but I'm like, nope, don't do that. It's gonna be bad. Anyway, let's see their folly. Well, not their folly, but let's see things. Let's see how this goes, I guess. All right. In the end, we canceled the club meeting. Kurusu went to the student council to finish her work. She was still pale. We all got ready to go, but for some reason, no one actually left. Sadaka and Narimura were flipping through magazines. Kazuki was still silently playing ESO2. Ito and I were thinking about the case and glancing occasionally at the map on the wall. There was a new sticky memo on the map. Oh. Killer might be Senri. While I was trying to decide if we should add it, Kurusu had written it down and copied it herself. Her normally beautiful handwriting was a little unsteady. She'd probably been shaking as she wrote it.
南沢千里か。 ああ。確かに、似てたな。ID カードにあった子供の頃の写真と、有村の証言の似顔絵。
Yeah. Arimura looked up from her magazine. She was staring at me. She didn't say it aloud, but it was obvious that she was trying to tell me that she thought so too. I thought back to when we'd been attacked by the Pyrokinetic. She's a lot older, but if the girl on the ID card grew up, she might look like that, yeah.
それじゃ僕らを襲ったのは。いや、でもそんな。
I don't know, sounds like she's been through hell,
な
man.
んかもう少し情報らしきものがあればな。
もしかすると、あの子なら何か知ってるかもしれない。
Uki, maybe?
あの子？
ああ。
I hesitated for a moment, but then realized that we weren't getting anywhere as things stood, so I held out my hand toward Ito.
悪いが、スマホ貸してくれ。
お前、まだ新しいの手に入れてないのかよ。
Oh, that's a good point. Why?
もうじき買うよ。サンキュー。
We should ask Uki what happened to our phone. Because somebody called us. I don't think it was her. So who has it now? Maybe she can help shed the light on that. I took the phone from Ito and dialed the number. After a few rings, I heard a voice I knew well. It was a gruff voice I'd heard almost every day lately.
はい、青葉いいんです。
もしもし、父さん。僕だけど。
おお、タクルか。どうした？
あのさ、山添さんなんだけど、今どうしてるかなと思って。
ああ、今診察室のベッドで点滴をしてる。軽い栄養失調が見られてな。お前が言うように、かなり劣悪な環境にいたんだろう。
Yeah, definitely.
今って電話に出られるかな？
眠ってはいないから大丈夫だとは思うが、ちょっと待ってろ。
I could hear him get further away from the phone. A second later, I heard a loud, high-pitched girl's voice.
ちょっとタクル兄、ウキちゃんは治療中なんだから邪魔しちゃダメだよ。
I like Yui. She's funny.
お前の大声の方が治療の邪魔じゃないのか。
Yui had probably been so worried about Yamazawa that she'd raced home after school. It was great to see her being such a good friend, but right now it was a huge nuisance.
ああ、いいから山添さんに代わってくれ。大事なようなんだ。
後じゃいけないの？
これ、絶対に内緒な。できればクルスには聞かせたくない話なんだ。お前も黙ってろよ。
So she's like, okay, that's why I can't wait. There was silence on the line for a moment as she thought. But eventually she reluctantly agreed.
わかった。待ってて。
Since it was just me, she probably didn't feel the need to put the call on hold. I could hear the door opening and closing as she went to the exam room. There was some whispering, and then I heard another girl's voice.
もしもし。
ああ、急にごめんな。具合良くないのか？
大丈夫です。私は平気だと言ったんですが、佐久間先生とゆいさんが心配してくださって。
That sounds like them.
そっか。
I was relieved to hear that she wasn't in bad shape. What I was about to ask might be bad for her mentally.
な、もしかして、南沢千里って子知ってたりしないか？
はい。
南沢千里。記録によると、渋谷自身まで君と同じ施設に通っていたはずなんだ。年齢は、6年間だから、12歳くらいかな。
南沢千里さん。
そうだ、どんなことでもいい。彼女について何か覚えていることはないか？
I would bring her the picture.
南沢さん。南沢さん。
She seemed to be trying her best to remember. I saw the rest of the newspaper club, not just Ito, but Sedeka, Arimura, and Kazuki as well, all staring at me and trying to hear the conversation. Yamazawa thought a little more before she spoke.
直接会ったり、 お話ししたことはないです。でも
Oh,
でも、
何度か治療室に入っていく姿を見かけたことがあります。あの子は私よりも辛い治療をしてるって。だから私も頑張るようにって先生に言われました。
okay. That doesn't sound great at all. I remember the experiments I'd seen as a little kid, as well as a tiny girl crying for help, and I shivered. Yeah, I also gotta think too, like, based on the setup we've got, I'm pretty sure that, like, I thought at first it was, like related. I think it might have been, like, if you remember, oh shoot, like, I know she had another name, but I was thinking of her as Fez, you know, the singer in the first game. She was at a mental institute and then was tested on. And the testing setup they had in the flashback looked very similar. And I think that was like a starter site. Then they moved to the hospital for like the full functioning like lab. So I wonder if they might have known her as well. But Yamazawa had it far worse than I did. She'd actually been exposed to the same torture that Minamisawa Senri was.
ごめんな。嫌なこと思い出させて。
いいえ、私はそれが嫌なことだとは思っていませんでしたから。
Weird.
そっか。
I mean, unfortunately, that's a kind of a kid thing. One of the ways that young kids can deal with trauma is they kind of normalize it.
他に何か覚えてることはないか？
あと、そうですね。南沢さんは随分と足が悪かったみたいです。
足？
はい。私が見かけた時はいつも片足を引きずっていて、先生に支えられるようにして治療室へ入っていきました。
The leg. That's gonna confirm it.
片足を引きずって？
なので、私はてっきり施設で足の治療をしているんだと思っていたのですが。
Dragging her leg. Wasn't that the same thing that Pyrokinetic was doing?
宮代さん。
いや、ごめん。また何かあったら聞くよ。ありがとう。
はい。それでは、ゆいさんに電話を
そのまま切っちゃってくれ。うるさいから。じゃあまた後で。
ちょっと、なんか聞こえたよ。うるさいって何？
Click. I hung up the phone before she could finish and handed it back to Ito. Then I looked up at the map again. Let's cross off might. I saw the two notes that Kudusu had written with a shaky hand. Pyrokinetic found had Senri's ID card. Pyrokinetic equals killer. Killer might be Senri.
あの女は本当に南沢千里なのか？
でも彼女はもうこの世にはいないんだろ？副部長が言うように慰霊碑にも名前があるし。
Deaths can be faked, and with a disaster that big, they might have just assumed anyone who wasn't found as dead. And if she was being hidden away, it was a very convenient way to make sure she didn't get looked for.
なあ、でも地下で見たデータでは行方不明になってた。
だからそれは。
そう、新庄さんにも言ったけど、僕はそれが彼女の死を意味すると思い込んでいた。クルスもそう言ってたし。けどもしそれがデータ通り本当に行方がわからないだけだとしたら。
どういうこと？
Said I was always looking between me and the map in confusion.
おのえも覚えがあるだろ。AH 東京総合病院は渋谷地震の時災害拠点病院の一つになっていた。被災者のデータはいくらでも共有できたはずだ。
そうなるとちょっと変ですね。慰霊碑に名前があるってことは、どこかの病院、あるいは警察で彼女の死亡が正式に確認されたってことですもんね。
Yeah, but again, it was a disaster. It's very easy for someone to slip through the cracks in there.
だろ？あんな実験までやっていた連中が大事な被験者の死亡情報を見逃すはずがない。
確かに行方不明なんて書かないよな、普通。
Ito crossed his arms and thought.
ってことは死亡したっていう情報が間違い、もしくは嘘か？
新庄さんは多分それを疑ってる。 南沢千里という子はまだ生きていて、そして僕たちを狙ってるってことだ。
The red sun was about to sink below the building on the horizon. I looked out the window and saw the sunlight had illuminated the clouds and formed a brilliant twilight, but soon it would disappear and the cold night would come.
でもさ、仮に犯人が南沢千里だとして、なんでお前を襲うよ。
That's a good question. I mean, it seems like she's attacking gigalomaniacs.
それは、わからない。なぜか能力者を恨んでいて、たまたま僕が引っかかったのか。
だったら、わざわざニュージェネの狂気事件をなぞる必要なくね？宮代の推論通り、犯行に何かメッセージがあるとすれば別だけどな。
Some kind of message. Back then, when Minamisawa Senri had been begging me for help, I'd left her there. I was just a kid, what could I do? No matter how much I told myself that, she probably wouldn't agree. She'd probably thought I was a ray of hope, but I'd left her there and ran away. It wouldn't surprise me if the memories that turned into hatred and rage she would never forget. And after she was set free during the Shibuya earthquake, she attacked me.
Huh?
Suddenly, I remembered the time she'd attacked me. The smile on her face had chilled me to the bone. And she'd said to me,
見つけた。
oh no, that's true. She'd been looking.
まさか、復讐？
This whole thing's Minami Senri's way of getting revenge on me?
そんなわけあるか。
I realized what I was thinking, slapped my hands against my cheeks to drive the thought out of my mind. That's bad though. I mean, she's probably killing me for us.
本当にいいの？
おう、任せろや。
What's going on?
やったよ、ウキちゃん。今日から一緒に暮らせるって。
Aww. After we got back, Kurisu and I were met with some good news.
はい、よろしくお願いします。
Aww.
もう、だから敬語はいらないってば。
Shinjo-san had come here in the afternoon. That's what he'd worked out. There were several reasons. First, Frieza couldn't keep her anymore, but due to her power, it would be difficult to give her a normal orphanage. Second, Shinjo-san was taking a different route than the other officers on this case, so he said he couldn't give her a police facility. And the most important thing of all is that this is what Yamazoa wanted. Having her old friend Yui here seemed to be helping her a lot. Aww, I love that.
よかったわね、ウキちゃん。
はい。
She blushed a little and nodded.
父さんもありがとう。
He's like, yep.
なーに、むしろこっちがありがたいってもんだ。誰かさんと違ってとっても気が利くし、家事の手際もいい。
Uh-huh.
もう少し元気になったら委員の手伝いもしてくれるって言うし、大助かりだ。
Yay.
父さん、それは私に対する当てつけと考えていいの？
Anyway, Yui pouted, but Dad just laughed and ran his head through her hair.
部屋はどこにしようかしら。今空いてるところってないわよね。
私と一緒でいいでしょ？ね。
そういうわけにはいかないわ。ユウとはどうするの？
別にいいじゃない。平気よね、ユウ？
ほら、ユウと困ってるでしょ。ダメよ。
I think he minds, but in a different way.
だったら、僕の部屋は？
嘘！タクルにってばやらしい。
Oh, stop that.
いくらなんでもそれはまずいだろう。
違うよ。そういう意味じゃなくて。
He's like, I have a place I could go. Once the case was settled, I intended to leave. So I could sleep in the dining room or something, and she could have my room. But Kurisu seemed to know exactly what I was thinking, and she poked me in the stomach.
なんだよ。
Don't you dare try and leave.
ダメですからね、また勝手に出て行ったら。
ここにいるのは事件が終わるまでって約束したろ。
そうだけど、あなたがだらしないからよ。一人暮らしなんて気が気じゃないって何度も言ってるでしょ。
She's kind of right, man. Stay here. Dad suddenly slaps his hands together.
ああ、そうだ。一つ部屋が空いてるじゃないか。
What?
え？
ほら、今は使ってないが、以前ナースの宿直室だった。
Oh.
あそこって物置じゃない、今。
We can fix that.
でもな、日当たりもいいし、物置にしとくのはもったいないと思ってたんだ。
そう思ってたのなら、もっと早く片付けてほしかったわ。
Well, he just thought of it. Kurusu sighed and turned to me.
明日、部屋の片付けをしましょう。手伝ってね。
Mm-hmm.
はーい。
Yuto answered cheerfully.
でも今夜はどうしようか。ゆいとうきちゃんが一緒で、ゆうとは父さんとでいい？
よし、決まり。布団用意しなきゃ。ゆう、手伝ってくれる？
うん。
私、自分でやりますから。
Ma'am. Ma'am.
大丈夫。うきちゃんは何がどこにあるのかまだ分かってないでしょ。あと、敬語はいいってば。はい。
She's like, how am I supposed to do that?
だから、そこははいじゃなくて、うんうん。ね、言ってみて。でも、私も手伝うので。そう？それじゃあ一緒に。
ああ、ちょっと待ってくれ。
Oh. I stopped Yamazawa before Yuki could take her out of the room.
どうしたの、タクルに。
山添、新庄さんから話は聞いたけど、もう一回だけ確認させてくれないかな。
はい。
僕のスマホ、今どこにあるか本当に知らないんだよな。
I'm kind of glad we are bringing this up because it kind of reoccurred to me today. I hadn't really thought about it until like the beginning of this episode, but I realized we know she touched his phone, but who has it? Because who's been calling him?
スマホ？ほら、こういうのだよ。
Yui took out her phone and showed it to her. When Yamazawa saw it, she finally seemed to remember.
ああ、新庄さんが見せてくれた電話機のことですね。あれは、落ちていた場所に戻したんです。
Okay, so it was still in the hospital.
その後、誰が拾ったのかわからないか？
はい、すみません。
そっか。
So it was just like Shinjo-san had said after all. Then who exactly had my phone and the picture inside it? And how had they been able to call Ito's phone?
タクルに、もういい？話は終わり？
ああ。
それじゃあ寝る準備しに行こう。父さん、とりあえず病院の使ってもいいよね。
おう。この前干してからまだ使ってないやつがあったろ。あれ使え。あとシーツも。
わかってるって。ああ、そうだ。ねえ、うきちゃん、お風呂も一緒に入らない？
Oh my gosh, okay. She's like, what?
だから、はいじゃないでしょ。言っとくけど、ユウは別だからね。
Had he been before? Look at this. So freaking cute. These three are great.
わかってるよ。
ゆいのやつ、随分とはしゃいでるな。
そうね。でもわかるわ。やっぱりお友達っていいものよ。
Yui took Yamazawa and Yuto out of the room.
クルスは大丈夫か？
どうして？
ほら、食費とかいろんな世話とか一人分増えるだろ。
世話は平気よ。うきちゃんはいろいろ手伝ってくれるって言うし、むしろ楽になるくらい。食費とかはまあ 父さんが頑張ってくれれば。
You know, I mean, you're getting old enough that I definitely could see Taku, like, it would be good if he got a part-time job and, like, helped a bit. No kid should have to fuel, like, a home unless necessary, but, like, there are a bunch of orphans living with a guy who's just trying to make ends meet. Like, I don't think it's unreasonable to try and share a little bit to try and help take care of the rest of the family. I don't know, it has to be voluntary, but there's something really cool about that.
おお、任せとけ。ちょっとトイレに。
Dad quickly ran out of the room to escape Kurusu's gaze.
まあ。
She chuckled, but there was a kindness in her laugh. Oh, how's Miyashiro? Completely awakened. Shall I do it? More. More? Yes, more. More suffering. More regrets. The pain of the abandoned. And for that, more, as you wish. Ami-chan and Max Candy. Who are they? So they're watching him. He's awakened, and they want him to suffer more. Why? What's the motivation there? Sunday. Arimura, Yamazawa, and I got full medical check at the hospital run by one of Dad's friends, just like Shinjo-san had suggested. Ooh, look at these. Let's see. I don't see anything overtly troublesome here. And stuff like this, I always wonder if they sneak in little, like, information. Like little secrets or insights or something. Now the numbers, brainwaves, and electrographs, MRIs, and other images were lined up on Dad's computer screen. Of course, as a complete amateur, I have no idea what any of it meant. Kunosato-san was talking to my dad as if she was one of his colleagues, rather than addressing him as a much older man than he was.
おかしなものって何ですか？ただでさえこんな検査されてムカついてるのに。しかも今日って友達と約束あったんですよ。女子同士って一度断ると後々面倒なんですけど。
Arimura put her hands on her hips and complained. Yamazawa, for her part, looked scared. She was hiding behind me and trying to stay out of Kunosato-san's sight. Yeah, I don't blame ya.
素人は黙ってろ。邪魔だ。
See, I think too. You could just teach us a little bit.
はあ？冗談じゃないですよ。ここでちゃんと言っとかないと、この先どんな実験をされるか分かったもんじゃありませんからね。
そういうことを言うど素人が一番腹が立つ。
Well, cool. Like, wanna be like freaking high horse, like elitist scientists like you piss me off the most. It's like, you should know better. That knowledge is treasure. And that it needs to be cultivated and encouraged. Because, yeah, maybe not everybody's going to be smart enough to get it. But you know what? You could inspire people to want to learn. Not like this, though.
なあ、有村さん、久野里さん。そうやって一日中喧嘩してて疲れないか？
No. Shinjo-san sighed like he always did. Arimura's eyes narrowed as she glared at Kunosato-san, who just laughed.
で、佐久間先生、結果はどうでした？
分かったことがあれば、なるべく早くお願いします。できればこの後買い物に行きたいんで。
Sheesh.
ああ、そうするよ。まず、ウキちゃんの成長阻害因子に関してだが、これはすぐにはわからん。染色体からホルモンの分泌異常まで詳しい結果が出るには時間がかかる。
That makes sense.
で、タクルと有村さんに関しては体はどこにも異常なし。どの臓器もすこぶる健康だ。ただし、タクルは食事のバランスが明らかに悪い。特定の栄養素が欠乏してる。これはののによーく言っとくからな。
Oh no, that's a threat.
有村さんは少し甘いものや油を控えた方がいい。ジャンクフードもやめること。 このままだと確実にメタボへ一直線だ。
Are you serious? I can understand she might not have the best diet, but she's tiny.
げ、
体のことは別にいい。脳はどうなんだ？
ああ、これが MRI だが。
Dad clicked on one of the images which displayed the human brain. Arimura must have found the sight of her own brain creepy because she looked away. Yamazawa didn't seem to know what it was and stared at it from behind me confused. Kunosato-san clicked through the images slowly, checking each little part in turn, but then finally tossed it away.
3人ともネガティブだな。
ああ、ネガティブだよ。
Negative of what?
ネガティブ？嘘、頭悪いってことですか？
I mean, maybe, but it has nothing to do with the test. No, negative probably means they were looking for something like a tumor or an enormous gland or in a large part of the brain, like the large hippocampus or something. Arimura staggered back as if she'd been given some kind of shocking news.
確かに頭が悪いな。バカすぎる。
Ouch.
そんな。
いやいや、そういう意味じゃないから。
Dad chuckled a bit.
久野里君、君は聞いていた以上に人が悪いね。
Yeah, she is.
ネガティブの意味もわからないようなやつはバカと断じていいはずだが。
I've said what I've said. It still stands. Mio, you're so disappointing. That's the worst part, right? It's not even that I don't like her as a character. She's just disappointing. She could be so much better.
こいつは新庄君の気苦労もわかるね。
Yeah, feels so bad for Shinjo.
でしょ？
Yeah. Shinjo-san gave Dad a tired smile.
安心していい、有村さん。医学の世界ではネガティブは陰性って意味だ。つまりおかしな症状は出ていないということだよ。
Yay.
君の脳は至って正常ってことさ。
That actually is a bit surprising. I thought there would be something a little different or abnormal about the brains of an active gigalomaniac.
なんだ、びっくりした。
Arimura sighed with relief, for once acting like a girl her age. Lately, I'd finally understood that this was who she really was. She told me that once before, she always tried being the person that the people around her wanted to be.
ギガロマニアックスと脳の肥大化の間には結局因果関係はないのか。
少なくともタクルたちに異常は見られない。君の言うそのギガロなんとかとの関連性は自分で判断してくれ。
Yeah. So it's like clearly like every brain's unique. Like a thumbprint or a fingerprint is unique for a person. Your brain is like that as well. We know that there are certain structures in the brain that facilitate certain types of thought, but at the same time, everyone's brain is wired completely uniquely, which is a big problem when it comes to diagnosing and treating internal brain issues, because there's no one way to do it. Like, if I break a bone, my bones are going to heal basically as much just like anybody else's will. There are rare exceptions where bone structure, growth, and material composition are going to be different, but those are usually abnormalities that can often not result in someone not being able to survive, right? But a brain's wiring and chemistry and everything internally is very unique, and that makes it difficult. Basically, if you wanted to diagnose a brain condition, identify maybe sections of the brain that are causing problems like maybe seizures, and try to, eliminate, adjust, somehow do something with them, you have to do extensive brain scans and therapy to map a single person's brain. And right now that's just so expensive, it just never seems, it's never going to be worth it. Kunosato-san frowned and lapsed into thought.
でも一連の殺人事件の犠牲者には特徴があった。被害者の脳に同一の症状が見受けられた。
So the murder victims had something different about them. That's interesting. And it's not necessarily the activation of powers. Maybe the longer you use powers, the more it manifests in the brain, though. That could be part of it. I also think it would be very fascinating to do a scan of a brain of a gigalomaniac, like, at rest, like they did there, and then have them summon their D-sword. Like, just have it there, and maybe even real boot it, and then scan the brain, see if there's something different. Or maybe even try and map, like, how it lights up with, like, electrical signals and see what changes there. Kunosato-san showed Dad her tablet computer. It had several brain scans on it that weren't ours, so Rimato looked away again.
これを見ればわかるだろう。どれも大脳新皮質が肥大化している。
ああ、言われれば確かに。
Dad whispered as he looked at the tablet.
肥大化？大きくなってるってこと？
Swollen's different. Bigger is just atomically structured, like larger. Swollen means it's filled with fluid. So on an MRI, there'll be a lot of like blank void space. Even though the internal structure will remain the same, but the external structure would be large. Like the structure's like size would be larger, and it would be full of like what would look like void. It'd basically be full of water.
まあな。
およそ 1.2 倍といったところか。そこで今回お前たちの脳に同様の症状があるのか見せてもらったわけだが、結果はネガティブだった。お前たちの脳は通常の人間と変わらない。
Another thing to think about too is like it's frustrating when you get your negative or you don't see what you expect, but that's a really important part of science. And any scientist who looks at something like results like this and says it's useless is a terrible scientist. So let's see what happens.
つまり被害者にだけ脳を肥大化させる特別な何かが起こった。
さあ、それはどうだろうな。この程度なら日常生活に支障のあるレベルじゃない。知性や知能にも影響はないだろう。本人も気づいてなかったんじゃないか？
つまりもともとそういう脳をしていたのか、死の間際に異常をきたしたのか、あるいは脳に異常をきたしたせいで死んだのか、断定はできないということですか。
We don't know. It could be related to them being forced into like the crazy delusions that like led them to dying, because there's something intense about that. So maybe there's like it's like a essentially it's like a blunt force trauma, but directly to the cerebrum. Dad looked at the tablet and nodded.
そういうことだね。
いずれにせよ考察のためのデータが乏しすぎる。せめてあと 2,3 人被害者が出てくれればいいんだが。
Oh, if only we had a few more victims.
だからそういうことを口にするのはやめろ。
Yeah, it's real creepy. Shinjo-san treated it like a joke, but her face is completely serious and terrifying.
っていうか、つまり今日の私たちの検査はあんまり意味がなかったってこと
I think
です
it's
か？
an interesting scene how no
冗
one,
談じゃないんですけど。
there's no one looking at me. And also, no, Arimata, there was a point. It's good to get these results. It's good data. Good data is like worth its weight in gold, and not even weight, it's gold. It's worth a lot of gold in this situation. But nobody's looking at Taku.
いや、そんなことはないさ。有村さんがすこぶる健康で脳にも異常なしって分かっただけでも収穫じゃないか。
It's true. Shijo-san tried his best to make her feel better, but
私に向かって心にもないこと言っても無駄ですよ。
that's true. She knows that it's a fib.
これだから有村は厄介だって思いましたね、今。
I mean, you're not wrong.
そんなことあるわけ。
Uh-oh. Gotcha. Shinjo-san gave up and lowered his head.
すまん。
ああ、せっかくの休みが潰れちゃった。私そろそろ行きますね。
Arimata grabbed her bag and tried to leave.
ちょっと待て。
But she turned around at the door when Kunosato-san stopped her.
何ですか？
最後にもう一つ手伝え。お前の能力が必要だ。
Okay, cool.
嫌です。
だから久野里さん、物には頼み方というものが。
Yeah, demanding is not the way, especially after what you pulled. But Kunosato-san ignored him.
山添右京の能力についてちゃんと聞いておきたい。
Yamazawa shivered and hid behind me. I'd be like, girl, you aren't asking her a thing unless she's okay with it. Dad saw her and frowned in a way only I could notice. Then he said, I'm gonna hit the restroom, walked past Rimura and out the door. On the way out, he whispered to me.
俺は向こうへ行ってるわ。超能力なんて話は医者の領分じゃねえ。聞いてるだけでこっちの頭が変になりそうだ。
I mean, that's kind of fair. I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised. It's either doing a really good long con, he literally has nothing to do with any of this, or and he has something to do with this, but he's covering it up, or he genuinely doesn't. And I'm kind of leaning more on the, I think he's just a good guy, it turns out. He just happens to be a doctor. After Dad left, Kunosato-san looked at tiny little Uki with cold eyes.
山添、お前自身にもよく分かっていないようだが、とりあえず知っていることだけでいい。話してみろ。
Her harsh tone only scared Yamazawa more, but I looked at her and nodded. She tried her best to work up the courage.
私は誰かが心に描いたものを形にしてしまうみたいなんです。
Interesting. Can you actually make it reality though? Because that's pretty broad. That opens up. That's a very expansive potential ability.
誰かが心に描いたもの？
それは誰の思考でもか？
私の近くにいる人です。
形というのは、つまり実体化させるということだな。例えば、ここにあるコインを私が思い描いたら。
Kunosato-san took out a penny and showed it to Yamazawa.
そういうものの場合もありますし、そうじゃないものもあります。
Or not?
そうじゃないものっていうと、
何と言えばいいのかわからないですが、例えば状態を。
状態？
So it has to fit. There has to be. Maybe it's also one of these it's a causality based one. So it has to do more with the likelihood of an event occurring or things being moved around differently. That could be the foundation of it. So the more abstract and the more unrealistic or unattainable it is, the harder it would be to pull off. So I guess, for example, it'd be really easy for me to have fast food because it would not like I say I want a Wendy's meal, which I would never want. Oh no, let's go with Frosty. Let's say a chocolate Frosty from Wendy's. Because I could order that on an app to be delivered to my house within the next hour, that's not so unreasonable. And so a world or a possibility where I had ordered that a hour before and it showed up at my house and sitting on my desk, that's very real. But if I wanted to have a time machine that hasn't been invented yet delivered to my door, that's really not something that can happen because you can't really, it'd be difficult to think of a reality where that could just miraculously happen. So that's what my guess is that there has to be, the more grounded in a possible future it is, the more likely it could occur. So when she escaped, it was because she'd been there long enough and had been kind of dismissed enough by Momose and everyone else there that there was a world in which she had been allowed to leave because they didn't need her anymore. And so she imagined herself being able to climb into a taxi and drive away, and she did.
綺麗になりたいとか、こうなってほしいとか。
それが現実になるっていうのか？
現実なんでしょうか？私にもよくわかりません。
That's a great question. Is it real? I don't know.
それは今やろうと思ってできるものなのか？
いえ、意識してできるわけではないです。
どうだ、有村。
Kunosato-san looked over, but Arimura just turned her head.
はいはい、その子嘘はついてませんよ。全部本当みたいです。
I like how Kunosato just doesn't trust people to say the truth, and so she just wants her to be like a perfect litmus test lying detection machine.
無意識のうちに他人の思考や願望をリアルブートしてしまうということだな。
She's pretty powerful then.
なるほど。 それならこの前フリージアから姿を消した方法も説明がつく。百瀬さんの思考がリアルブートされてしまったわけか。
She's been thinking about leaving for a long time and it finally just like snapped into place. Also, I wonder if that could be why she hasn't aged. Like they're looking for medical reasons, but like maybe it's because she stays the way she imagines herself, and like she just can't imagine herself growing up, so she didn't. So her power could only reboot other people's thoughts and wishes, but not her own. It was like her own life. She had no hopes of her own, only lived her life for the sake of others. In a way, it was very sad power.
好むと好まざるとに関わらず能力を発動してしまうという点では、そこにいる有村ひなえと同じ部類だ。能力自体は大したものだが、不便なものだ。
不便で悪かったですね。
で、それはいつからだ、山添。いつからそんな能力を身につけたのかと聞いている。地下施設での実験中にか。
いえ、私は劣等生でしたから。
That was a bad I doubt you were.
ならいつだ。
多分渋谷の地震の後からだと。
Okay, interesting. I would imagine I'm doing with the Nozomi, not the Nozomi. Nozomi was the company. The Noah 2 activating, I imagine, did all kinds of wacky stuff to the people in Shibuya. Like, just feels like it really must have messed with everybody. So it makes sense that a lot of people might have been forcefully awakened at that time.
やはりな。
やはりってのは？
こいつらの話と、あと、あんたが調べた被害者たちの過去。それらを総合して考えると、能力に目覚めたと思われる時期がほぼ同じだ。
あの地震が原因だってのか？
Not the earthquake. What caused the earthquake? Definitely.
まだ仮説だがな。
Kunosato started typing something into her tablet.
待ってくれ。地震なんてどこでも頻繁に起こってる。その度にギガロマニアックスが生まれてたらキリがないじゃないか。
That's the thing. Like they somehow they gotta figure out that it wasn't an actual earthquake.
いや、私が言っているのは地震そのものじゃない。
あ？
Maybe the flash of white light that happened beforehand?
あの時、不可思議な現象が渋谷で観測されたのを覚えているか？
Something strange. I did remember actually.
もしかしてあの白い光ですか？
Yeah. Kunosato-san nodded. That white light. The white light that had covered up us right after the Shibuya earthquake. There was a lot of rumors about it, including one that said it was a plasma caused by the earthquake, but I'd heard that no one really knew what it was even now.
驚いたな。久野里さんが陰謀論者だとは思わなかった。
陰謀論？ってまさか一時期流行したあれですか？
I was talking about a certain rumor that gone around right after the earthquake. The rumor said that the earthquake was caused by a secret tectonic weapon experiment, a joint project between the US and Japan that may have gone awry. Honestly, considering what it actually was, that almost feels more realistic and likely. So, tectonic weapon, a weapon capable of causing an earthquake in order to destroy enemy cities or other targeted areas, primarily spoken of in urban legends and conspiracy theories. There are many proposed methods by which such a weapon could work, but the most prominent theories are the three below. First, electromagnetic waves could heat up groundwater beneath the target, causing groundwater to expand and excite the Earth's crust. There are rumors that the U.S. High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, HAARP, is being used for this very purpose. If that one were a real thing, it seems super unlikely. You're basically talking about a super microwave, but if you're going to try and activate groundwater, you're going to be hitting all the water leading down to it, and the amount of energy for that would be immense. And if you wanted to even make it feasible, you'd have to already be targeting a very, an area of the Earth's crust that's already under a lot of strain, so along a fault line, which is going to be one of the worst places to trigger earthquakes because that's where people are prepared for them. It'd be a very limited scope. I don't see why people would put much energy into that. Second, a hydrogen bomb or other type of powerful weapon could be placed in an active fault or tectonic plate boundary on the ocean floor and detonated in order to cause an earthquake. This is said to be the mission of the deep sea drilling unit GQ. It was developed as part of the Japan-U.S. Integrated Oil Ocean Drilling Program, IODP. The third, it's not spacing for the third one, but like, again, it has the same flaws as the first one, but I guess it's a little more like likely, but at the same time, even though atomic bombs are insanely big and powerful, you're talking about a planet-sized slab of Earth. For that, I feel like scale-wise, that's too small to be able to do that. Like, it might set off like an earthquake that was already building, but you'd never be able to do this like on a whim. And if you did it once, you'd have to wait to do it again in that same location for a long time. Anyway. The third method is the advanced version of the theory originally proposed by Nikola Tesla, wherein a signal is generated that matches the resonant frequency of the ground at the target site. After enough time, the amplified vibrations would grow intense enough to eventually cause a collapse of the Earth's crust and thus the earthquake. While it's not a weapon, Tesla did develop a device to prove this resonance effect existed, which is said to have almost destroyed a building. That's interesting because, like, I think that idea that it like almost destroyed a building is apocryphal. I do feel like resonance is a thing that exists. We know it exists, at least in a small scale. But to be able to amplify it to those levels, again, I imagine would take so much energy because like sound waves and vibration waves are such an inefficient method of transferring energy that you would need so much energy to be able to pull it off that it'd be easier just to apply that energy to the building itself and make it explode. At least that's my understanding of the physics. I think the idea of the resonance is supposed to be it would build up and like kind of take an initial energy and then multiply it, but I don't think we've ever seen a system that actually does that. I mean, if you could actually just freely multiply energy, that would solve the energy crisis instantly. There's another theory that gained popularity on the internet as well, which involved the government sending an army of sumo wrestlers to an active fault near the target point or enemy nation. They would all stomp on the ground at the same time. However, the inherent difficulties of transporting a sumo wrestler army deep into enemy territory, this method is considered largely impractical. You had to tell me that? And that the mysterious light was caused by the explosion. The rumor also said the chaoschild syndrome, which is believed to be a form of PTSD, might actually be caused by the materials used in that weapon. Now, that very much might be. Antiparticles probably blanketed the entire Shibuya area when the Noah 2 fired, so I could see that being technically true. Chaoschild syndrome might be just people who have basically been irradiated by antiparticles. The rumor was popular in that channel for a while, but people quickly grew bored of it. By the time I'd woken up from my coma, nobody was talking about it anymore. No, it would be more accurate to say that instead of people getting bored by it, somebody had done all their best to erase all traces of it. At the time, I'd found it strange and started looking into it outside the internet. Despite the scale of the earthquake, there had been no aftershocks afterwards. All the damage had been concentrated in Shibuya, and epicenter had been observed to be far too shallow. Yeah, exactly. If you look at the data, this wasn't an earthquake, but how do you tell people that? Yet, not a single scientist was speaking up. Whenever someone raised even the smallest doubt, they were quickly shouted down as an idiot conspiracy theorist.
ただの陰謀論だったらいいのだがな。
というと？
すべての元凶はあの光自体にあるのではないかと私は考えている。地震はその副次的なものに過ぎない。
I think so too.
本気で言ってるのか？じゃあ君は光の正体を何だと思ってるんだ？
You know what that light also could be, if I had a theory about it? The Noah 2 was supposed to be able to replicate what a gigalomaniac could do, but on a grander scale. What if it essentially was a planet-wide delusion? And what if the light was them trying to reboot the planet somehow, or something on a planetary scale?
それが分かれば苦労しない。ただ、何者かの手によって引き起こされたものだと私は確信している。
すいません。そういうのは後でやってください。私は早く事件を解決してくれればそれでいいんで。
Arimata saw that Shinjo-san and Kunosato-san were about to start arguing and readjusted her tote bag over her shoulder.
私の仕事はもう終わりですよね。じゃあさようなら。 宮代先輩たちもまた学校で。
See ya.
ああ、それじゃあな。
ウキもまたね。てかもっと元気出せよ。
Aww. She patted Yamazawa lightly on the head and left the examination room. Yamazawa softly whispered, "Yes, ma'am," as she watched her go. After that, Kurosato-san began to mumble to herself as she started looking at our data on Dad's PC. There was a different look in her eye than I'd seen before. To be honest, she looked a little crazy. But it wasn't the look of a mad scientist. It was as if she was concentrating on some dark obsession. I'd seen those kinds of eyes somewhere before. Where was it?
Huh.
As soon as I remembered, a chill ran down my spine. It's going to be Senri, right?
あのパイロキネシスト、南沢千里かもしれないあの女の目にそっくりだ。
They were the eyes of someone bent on revenge, consumed by hatred and rage. That doesn't bode well at all. Okay. I think this is a decent place to stop. So we had the Uki being introduced to the family officially. That was really lovely. And we had the brain scans and talked about it. And it's interesting. It really is interesting points to find out that all the victims had enlarged parts of their brain consistently throughout each of the victims so far. And yet it's not something that's a trademark of a gigalomaniac, which is kind of what I thought we were going to find. So what else is it supposed to be? My next best guess is whatever the powers that be that are forcing them to do those crazy things, whatever's behind that, I think is what causes that issue. Maybe it's a overindulgence or oversaturation of zero particles or antiparticles, whatever they're called. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed yourselves as well. There's not much else to say yet because we're kind of still learning things, and I gotta learn some more before I can really say much, but it'll be fine. I'm excited. It'll be really good to see, and I'm excited to to see what you all think as well. No spoilers, obviously, but I still think it'd be fun to hear what you got to say. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel, for being a part of a wonderful community I'm very happy to be a part of and to be able to share my time with. But that's que sera sera. Let's go move on. So thank you so much, and until next video, you're watching me out to see me next. I'll see you there.